Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Alaikum wassalam. My name is Jenna Ayash. I am from the United States and I live in Houston, Texas. I took my Shahada when...
Tell us your journey on how you found Islam.
Yes. So I grew up in a Catholic family, but I was very curious about different religions. In college, I started taking world religion courses and studied a little bit about different religions. But it wasn't really till later that I was really interested in Islam. The first time I went to Indonesia in my 20s, I, for the first time, met a lot of Muslims, and I was amazed at how kind and polite and open-minded they all were, because the media presented Muslims so badly, especially after 9/11. And so I had just a very different impression. I was, very curious about Islam at that point, but more interested in Sufism at the time. So later I connected with a Sufi group and here in Houston and would practice zikr with them. And I realized they're all praying. I don't know much about Islam, the fundamentals of Islam. And I wanted to read the Quran to understand more of the references in our zikr and to see what this book was like. So I began to read, and as I started to read it, I was amazed at the scientific facts that were presented, the predictions that were made. It became clear to me, especially after reading about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, knowing he was illiterate, they could have written this eloquent book, and had all these predictions himself that he was definitely a messenger of God. And, I began to read more and, listen to khutbahs by Dr. Omar Suleiman about his life. And I just fell in love with his character. He was such a kind, compassionate, wise, prophet. And I couldn't help but fall in love with him. And not only him, but Khadija and Omar al-Khattab and all these other great firsts in Islam. So became very interested in them at that point.
So which moment convinced you that Islam is the truth, and how did you feel when you conveyed your Shahada?
So I married a Jordanian man, and he introduced me to a friend of his that's a sheikh. And his wife became a good friend of mine. She was very, very kind. And she asked me, why don't you come to the masjid in Ramadan a year ago and just see what you think and, pray with me and have iftar with me. So I went, and I felt so connected to everyone there. All the sisters were so kind and supportive, answered any questions I had. And it was strange. I didn't really know how to pray then, but I didn't feel strange about it. I really felt connected to everyone there. When I heard the Quran, I felt something in my heart that I have never felt before. It was just like an opening, and it felt like the truth. And I knew that Ramadan Jummah evening that I wanted to take my Shahada. So the next Jummah, I went back and I declared my Shahada, and that's it.
Challenges during your transition, and how did your family and friends react to your conversion?
So I'm fortunate that I have parents that have always allowed me to study, even though they were Catholic. They've always allowed me to research and study and practice whatever I would like for my religion. Then when I did tell her, yes, I became Muslim, and she saw I'm changing a lot. Before I had statues and paintings in my house, and after the sheikh came, I got rid of them. And I changed my life completely. And she, being Catholic, was like, wow, she saw the positive change. She didn't feel uneasy about it after that. I did lose some friends, some Buddhist scholars. Like, they were like, how could you convert to Islam? I just said, you practice your religion, I'll practice mine. And so, I didn't have, I would say, a lot of difficulties. Like, if you look at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like, he had some serious trials and suffering that went along with spreading Islam. But these little things like losing some friends and, was not a big deal for me. Yeah.
Okay, so what are the things you impress most in Islam?
What I'm impressed about most in Islam is, I see, like, when I look at Sharia, like, I can see why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has laid out certain laws. The more I practice, the more I understand it. It's really, it's very protective of women. And it's to keep us from falling into sin. And also, I love the sunnah, like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His life is so beautiful. The way he had such patience with people, even if they were harming him. He was so kind and loving, never got angry, we could learn so much from him, so that's what I think is so impressive. And I see that and people and the ummah, they are always, trying to follow his footsteps and be kind and open and generous. And I mean, it's a perfect path. And so that's why I chose to become Muslim.
So how do you define practicing Islam, such as prayer and fasting during Ramadan? Is it challenging?
Oh, I found at first, maybe the first 2 days, the no water. I fasted before, but no water was a little tough, maybe the first 2 days. But after that, I realized it got so easy. And the prayers actually, it was so beautiful because you're constantly putting your desires aside. This ego that wants to eat and drink and watch TV or do something that's distracting from what we're really here to do, which is to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All those distractions sort of fell away and I was able to focus only on prayer and, the communion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala became really strong. And I felt a lot of change in my temperaments and my desires, like for worldly things. It was so beautiful for me.
So how about Eid celebrations? What are your favorite things and what you feel is different compared to your previous religion?
Well, Eid was beautiful because you're celebrating. I mean, you just fasted. Now you're celebrating, you're feasting, you're rejoicing, you and the ummah, with the things that you gave up for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a time for celebration. It was beautiful. I think my favorite things were just, being with other Muslims in the ummah and enjoying, I guess, some rest and celebration after giving up a lot of things for the month of Ramadan. But I didn't really look at it like, for me, it was like, all I could think about was, I just want to continue this. I don't want to lose my passion for prayer and all the things that I put aside, like I'm still like, I want to keep fasting once or twice a week, I want to always engage in prayer the way I did in Ramadan. So how is that different? In Catholicism, our fasting is not like this. It wasn't like a whole month of, no water and no food. It was just like no meat, just fish on Fridays, like for Lent or something. It was nothing serious. And Buddhism also, they fast. That means they don't eat anything after 12 o'clock and they eat the following morning. So it's not with the intensity that Muslims fast. I think, they're willing to sacrifice a lot more for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He has made that obligatory for us as Muslims. And I embrace that sacrifice and look at it as you gain so much more. It may seem like a sacrifice, but it really, as Muslims, you gain so much more from doing that.
What are your messages for all brothers and sisters that seek Islam, as well as the early step of the conversion?
Well, I think, definitely read the Quran, read the Hadiths, listen to these fabulous khutbahs by, revered sheikhs on the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But also, try to connect. I was very fortunate to attend the New Muslim Circle classes, so I could actually have a strong foundation in Islam. I think it's really important to have that kind of support as a new Muslim, because there's so much to learn. It's almost overwhelming at first, to make sure you're doing your wudu properly, you're praying properly, you understand what's allowed and what is not allowed, there is a lot to learn. So I would suggest to try to, take some classes and do your own research, read the Quran. But it's, you need a lot. I think you need support in the beginning, definitely. And then it's also your own efforts, making sure that after you know what you need to do as a Muslim, that you put forth the efforts.
So, well, that is it. Would you like to say anything for your final comments?
Well, I want to just say that I'm really grateful again for having the support that I needed from the New Muslim Circle classes, and also from all my brothers and sisters in Islam for supporting me and answering all the questions I've had as a new Muslim, and for being here to walk this beautiful, perfect path with me. And I just pray that all new Muslims are able to receive the support they needed like I did. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair.